I recently came across this really stupid article titled "Saying You Hate Kids Isn't Edgy, It's Actually Awful." Which, first off, I've made videos in the past discussing my distaste for children and how I hate being around them and I can't stand most children I've been around. But I've never ever thought, wow, I'm so edgy and badass for thinking that kids are annoying and I don't want to be around them and I have no desire to have kids in the future and I just don't like kids in general. I've never thought it was edgy. I never had that thought, and I've never come across anyone who actually thinks they're all cool and edgy for hating kids. Yes, I'm actually going to say hate in this video. I know it's a very strong, offensive word that you don't want me to use. I'm going to fucking use it anyway. Anyway, I'll get more into that as we go on in this video. But anyways, I know other people who don't like children. Some of my friends really don't like children, and I've never heard them say, "Oh, it's so cool that I hate children." Right? I'm more than sure that they don't actually think that, and I'm more than sure that most people who don't like children don't actually think that. If anyone thinks they're all badass and cool for not liking children, then yeah, they're a moron. But anyways, yeah, right off the bat, I have a big problem with the title. Uh, don't get hate mixed up with not enjoying being around children. Oh God, here we go. And yes, I know this article was published on February 3rd, 2017. I know this article is nearing 3 years old. If you have a problem with me covering and responding to an article that is nearly 3 years old at this point, then I don't care. Let's move on, shall we? First off, this picture, or GIF. I don't know if it's supposed to move. Image, it says. Okay, so it's an image. I'm sick of people with children. They're everywhere. Same, lady. Same. I completely agree with you. Anyway, the man in front of me sighed. Oh no, not another child. I hope it doesn't scream, he said. I hate kids. He spoke so loudly that I was sure everyone on the plane could hear him. Cool. I looked over at the family he was referring to. A mother was strapping her 4-year-old child into his seat, holding her sleeping infant on her chest. Another child, about 7 years old, smiled broadly at me across the aisle. Later, he told me he was excited that because it was his first flight, the family was entirely within earshot of the person who loudly complained about them. All right, well, I'm not gonna sit here and try to justify that. All right, yes, that is a bit fucked up of the guy to do, or say rather, if the family was actually that close where they could actually hear what the guy was saying about their child. I've shared the story before because I made a video about my distaste for children a few months back. I was on the bus to my god. One morning on the bus, I was on my way to my god awful fucking math summer program. Anyways, and a mother with two children boarded the bus, and there was nowhere else for her kids to sit. Well, one of the kids was sitting next to her, and the other there was nowhere else for the kid to sit aside from right next to me. And yeah, the kid had to sit next to me, and he was kind of loud. He was moving around, looking out the window and such. And I remember rolling my eyes when that kid sat next to me, and I know for sure the mother saw me do that because she gave me a little dirty look right after doing that. And I'm not going to make any justifications for that. All right, maybe I shouldn't have done that. That was a bit fucked up, but at the same time, I don't really care. I don't like children, and I'm perfectly fine to displaying my distaste for a child whenever they're around. Call that fucked up, sure. I'm not defending what this guy did per se, but I can understand where he was coming from. All right. In a world where we're drawing more and more attention to issues like sexism, homophobia, and racism, most decent people would find it unacceptable for him to say such a thing about most marginalized people. And what the fuck does that have to do with children? Children are not marginalized like those groups of people that you listed in this video, okay? Like, it's not like children are oppressed in any sort of way, or they face any type of bigotry whatsoever. Not like the groups of people you described right here. Like, what the fuck? What is the correlation here? Hatred towards women, people of color, or queer people. Shut the fuck up, John. uh, Go away. Uh, Sorry. In a world where we're drawing more and more attention to, I already read that. Hatred towards women, people of color, or queer people is unfortunately all too common, but most people aren't afraid to challenge those views. Okay, yes, but again, what does that have to do with children? Like, I don't get it. Like, why are you bringing this up when we're talking about children? Children are in all different type. Children can be different types of colors, races, whatever. They can be different genders, whatever. We're not discriminating against what they are. We're just not even discriminating. We're just stating our distaste for how they act, how children usually act. They're loud, they're noisy, they're dirty, they're gross. That's what we don't like. And then they grow up to hopefully become a decent human being who is not all of those things because they have since matured since going out of those years. So yeah, I don't really get why you have to really compare this to actual issues like sexism, homophobia, and racism. Like, I don't get it at all. Hating kids, though, even some of the most radical progressives see it as acceptable, even cool. Again, who the fuck is saying it's cool? Most people actually think it's weird that I don't like children. They chastise me for not liking kids, and sometimes they say, well, you were a kid once. Do you hate your past self? Yes, I do. Okay. Anyway, I hate that stupid rebuttal so much, but anyways, I'm usually chastised for not liking children because they're so innocent and cute. How can you hate a kid? How can you hate something that's so innocent and cute? Because they annoy the fuck out of me. Anyway, that's why I don't like kids. I never saw that as cool. It's just how I am. That's all. I remember being in that 8-year old's shoes. By that age, I had worked out the fact that many teenagers and adults hated children. And I was constantly wondering if people would or were going to be irritated by my mere presence. I walked on eggshells. I tried to act as mature as possible because I didn't want to be one of those irritating children. Well, most 8-year olds don't really think of that. I certainly didn't know at 8 that there were people out there that really didn't like children and probably really hated me being in their presence. I'm of course aware of that now, but I wasn't aware of that back then. Most kids don't think that at that age, and if you did, well, yeah, that must suck, and you must have really cared so much about how you were, how you behaved around certain adults that you're not exactly familiar with. So yeah, I can understand the struggle there, but still, most kids don't think of that, so I don't really see this as a big, widespread issue like you're making it out to be. When I visited a friend's house at the age of 7, her mother's friend, also a parent, was visiting too. As the friend, as the friend watched us quietly playing on the other side of the room, she complained loudly about how she hated kids. Oh fuck! I mean, I love my children, she said. I just hate kids in general. Wow. Again, fucked up. I know, but whatever. The culture of hating kids affected me when I grew up too. When I was in high school, many of my peers and I loudly proclaimed that we didn't like children. Sound like my kind of friends. Whether we consciously knew it or not, it was meant to be an edgy thing. Again, what the fuck? I never say this to be edgy. All my friends who don't like kids like me, don't try to be fucking edgy. We don't even bring it up all too much. Like, if the subject of kids somehow comes up, like, someone might ask me, oh, do you plan on having kids in the future? And I say, no, I don't like kids. And they might ask me why, and we have a little discussion, but never have I ever been accused of being edgy for saying that, because I'm not trying to be fucking edgy. I'm just being honest. And I don't like kids, not because not because I'm trying to be edgy, but because I just genuinely don't like kids. I don't like being around kids. I don't want kids. I don't know how many times I have to repeat this, but the author of this article keeps repeating that same point. Like, yeah, that's the sole reason why people don't like kids. Yeah, because they think it's so cool and edgy. They're very counterculture. Good for them. No, no one actually fucking thinks that. Maybe some people do. Okay, maybe some people don't like kids because they, for whatever reason, think it's the cool and edgy thing to do. When in reality, it's actually shunned upon by most of society. When it comes to not liking kids, people chastise you for not liking kids. I've already gone into that, but most people just don't like kids because they don't like being around kids. I don't know what the fuck planted the seed in your head that people don't like kids just to be edgy. But anyways, I don't want to repeat myself any more than I have already. Uh, whether we consciously knew it, and I am not maternal like other girls think. Okay, and I know girls who don't like who don't like children either. They have no desire to have children. Again, it's not an edgy thing. They just have no desire to be a mother. Okay, not every girl is suit to be a mother, and not every girl should have children because quite honestly, not all girls, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say most people shouldn't even have kids in the first place because most of the kids birthed in this world are, let's be honest, are probably not even planned in the first place. They're probably like the parents probably stupidly had unprotected sex. They didn't take the pill. They didn't use condoms. None of that. And then they found out a few weeks later. Oh shit! Oh my girlfriend got pregnant. Oh. She doesn't want to get an abortion, and I guess I have to raise this kid. I don't want to raise this kid, but I guess I have to. That's really the origin story of most people in this world, and probably myself too, to be brutally honest. But yeah, the more girls that have this mentality that, oh yeah, I don't want to be a mother, I don't want to bear kids because I don't think I'm cut out to have kids, and I really have no desire to have kids because I can't stand being in the presence of a kid. I think we should have more of that because the less people who are being birthed in this world, the better. Because honestly, like we're overpopulated as fuck. There's way too many of us, and the more people who adopt the mindset of I don't want children, I don't want to birth children, I don't want to be a mother, I don't want to be a father, the fucking better. In a world where girls were expected to want and like children, it seemed like a radical stance to take. And it's still seen as a radical stance to take. Like, the girls I know who have no desire to have kids, they're constantly badgered whenever they bring up that topic, them not wanting to have kids. They are always like, oh, don't you want to be a mother? Don't you want to go through the experience of having a child and knowing what it's like to birth a child into this world and hold it in your arms for the first time? And they're like, fuck that shit, no. Oh, God. Ultimately, though, there's nothing radical about hating a vulnerable group of people. I don't want to repeat myself again. They're dependent on adults. They could be at risk to violence and abuse, and they're often seen as an extension of their parents instead of people in their own right. Okay, yes, I get all that. Kids are vulnerable. They're very much susceptible to violence and abuse, of course, because they're children and they're weak, little, and feeble. Just because I don't like kids doesn't mean I want to see a kid hurt or raped or anything of the sort. Um, Ultimately, though, there's nothing. Yeah, it just repeats the same thing in bigger letters for some reason. When you listen to the reasons why people claim they hate children, they're noisy, they're not interesting, they're gross, they're usually unjustified stereotypes that seem to generalize all children, reducing them to an age group instead of realizing they're human beings with their own characteristics, opinions, and interests. Yeah, that's cool and all, but most kids I'm around are like that. Okay, they fit that stereotype very very well. They're loud, they're noisy, they're gross, they're obnoxious, they're annoying, and I just don't want to be around them. So that's kind of why I kind of generalize kids right off the bat whenever I'm around a kid. Is that exactly the right thing to do? No. If a kid is perfectly respectful, they're quiet, they don't move around, and they don't cause a ruckus in general. It's very rare when I'm around a kid like that, but yeah, I've been around some kids like that, and I'm like, yeah, that's a good kid. More kids should be like that kid. Why can't more kids just be quiet like that? Like that kid is. I'm willing to admit that a kid is acting perfectly well when a kid actually is acting perfectly well, but again, for the most part, most of the kids I've encountered are just like the ones you wrote, just like the ones you listed here. They're noisy, they're not interesting, they're gross. Like, most kids fit that bill, at least most of the kids I've been around, so that's why I just don't like being around them in general. I get it. Being around kids can be exhausting, especially if you're anxious that they'll hurt themselves. I'm not anxious that they'll hurt themselves. I'm just exhausted being around them because kids are just exhausting in and of themselves. Like they just they run around, they scream. It's just overall a headache being around. But whatever. Or if you don't have the energy to play with them or answer their questions, yeah, I don't like doing that either. Sometimes like a few weekends ago, I was at the store and I was sitting around and some kid went up to me and said, "Hi, my name is." I completely forgot what the fuck the kid's name was, but they were like, "Hi, nice to meet you. What's your name?" And I said Michael, and they were like, "Oh, that's nice." And they tried to make conversation with me. I honestly just couldn't be fucked to talk to them, and I just kind of gave them one word answers and kind of made it clear that I don't want to talk to you. I don't want you being around me. Please don't bother me. Again, am I an asshole for doing that? Yes, but again, like I don't like fucking talking to little kids, so I just wanted them to leave. But yeah, yeah, I know that I know that wasn't exactly refuting anything, but them mentioning the answering questions thing kind of reminded me of that. Not everyone enjoys being around children, and I'm not saying everyone should enjoy it. I also don't believe parenthood is essential to living a full and happy life. Well, at least carry that sentiment, okay? At least we're not going to go in and say, well, you have to be a parent to enjoy life to the fullest. No, you don't. That's utter bullshit, and fuck anyone who says that. Like, Ben Shapiro, if you don't want to have kids, you're selfish. Shut the fuck up, you weasel. Uh... So please don't think I'm passing judgment on those who choose not to have children, but being exhausted by children is quite different to hating them. Hatred implies something deeply felt, something cold and cruel, something that you might even be picketing against right now. Oh no, holy shit. And that's why I mentioned the hate thing at the very beginning of this video where I was like, oh, I said hate, how dare I? I'm gonna get into that now. Most people, when they say that they hate something, they don't actually like genuinely hate the thing. Like I say that about many things. Like that's very like something very, you know, inoffensive or non-controversial whatsoever, or just something very minuscule. I just say, oh, I hate that thing, just because most people say that. Most people say they hate something, but they don't actually feel that burning hate, passion, hatred thing that hate usually implies. Most people just say they hate something just for the fuck of it. They don't actually have a burning hatred for what it is they're saying that they hate. And that's what I do. I say I hate children, but it's not like I want to see a kid die or see any other horrible thing happen to a kid that I might be around. I just say I hate kids because I do. I don't like being around kids. I just say hate because whatever. Most people say that anyway. Most people say they hate things anyway, and they don't actually, have a burning hatred for that thing that they say they hate. But whatever. We're just arguing semantics at this point. Maybe, though, some people mistake what annoys them for hatred and annoyance. Being upset by the sound of a crying kid is understandable. Lacking empathy towards a kid is not. Again, most people when they say that they hate kids, it's not like that. They don't lack. It's not that they lack empathy for the kid. It's just that they don't like being around kids, and they kind of exaggerate their distaste for kids by saying, "Oh, I hate kids." I'm sure most people who say that don't actually want to see a kid harmed or have anything else terrible happen to them, because most normal people don't want to see that. Even people who don't like having kids, including myself, I don't like kids, but I don't want to see anything terrible happen to a kid. So it's not like I lack empathy for kids. It's just that I find them annoying. There's a difference there. It's like people who chastise me for not liking dogs. They're like, "Oh, how could you hate dogs? Does that mean you want to see a dog die or get abused?" And I'm like, "Fuck no! What the fuck? Where'd you get that from? Just because I don't like dogs? Like, just because I don't like dogs doesn't mean I want to see something terrible happen to a dog. Like, why do people just jump to that conclusion? Why do people think like just because you hate something that most people don't like, and it may be cute and cuddly and such, and people are automatically like this? What, you want to see something terrible happen to that thing? And you're like, no, what the fuck? Where'd you get that from? But anyways, where'd I leave off? Often lacking empathy for children is a reminder that many fail to see them as a whole people. Sure, it's distressing to hear an infant screaming on a plane. Distressing is a huge understatement. And it makes it impossible to get your beauty rest, lest you pop an Ambien. But consider this. It's probably more distressing to actually be the infant on the plane. But if you still can't get empathy for someone who isn't even a fully developed human yet, think about this. Hating kids doesn't just affect kids, it affects parents too. Many of whom might even be your friends. The less accessible a place is for kids, the less accessible it is for parents who have no choice but to bring their children. And when your hatred affects someone who's trying to do her best, your distaste looks a lot less edgy. Again, I don't care how less edgy my distaste for children seems, because I don't feel edgy at all for not liking kids in the first place. So whatever. If you're like, oh, your edginess is starting to kind of diminish here, and I'll just be like, what the fuck ever? Like, when the fuck did I ever say I was cool for not liking kids? Oh, whatever. I'm tired of trying to refute this point. In fact, it just looks plain mean. All right, whatever. If you think I'm mean for not liking kids, whatever. Okay. I don't like kids. Deal with it. I don't care how you feel about it. And if you're distressed by that, whatever. Okay, you like kids. I don't like kids. It's just a difference of opinion. Okay, I don't like this certain type. I don't like this certain group of people. That's all. That actually sounds really terrible. That makes it sound like I'm talking about like black people or women or such. But you get what I mean. I don't like, kids. Okay, that's what I mean. It's not bigoted in any sort of way. I'm not trying to be edgy when I say that. It's just how I feel. Nothing more, nothing less. And I don't know why you get this idea that it's edgy or any way correlated to racism, homophobia, and racism when it's sexism, homophobia, and racism, I should say, when it's not at all. Okay, like, it's not like children are marginalized groups whatsoever. The children are not, they're not unequal or anything. They're just fucking children. That's all. Okay. But anyways, I'm not gonna drag this video out any longer than it really should be. Any longer than it should be. Anyway. Yeah. Stupid article. Very stupid article. And if you like kids, whatever. And if you think I'm edgy or something for not liking kids, then you're a moron. And again, anyone who thinks they're edgy for not liking kids is a moron. But again, I have no clue who fucking thinks that. I've never met a person who thinks that. Everyone I know who doesn't like kids everyone I know who doesn't like kids doesn't think that either. So again, I don't know where the fuck that came from. But I'm repeating myself, okay? I'm done here. My mouth is dry and I really want to do something else now and get my mind off of this stupid fucking article. Anyway, let's end this video now. That's all I have to say. Bye-bye.